From the title of this video, you would think that this would be my first time watching this. Well, that's not true. I actually haven't seen this movie in well over 2 decades. Believe it or not, I watched it once and kind of forgot about it. It wasn't until very recent years seeing, with some exceptions, modern cinema releasing unremarkable, unappealing, and often forgettable works that bomb in theaters, pile up in bargain bins, or get buried underneath new releases on streaming services. You know, the stuff that wins awards nowadays. I've been increasingly going to the past to look for good work. I imagine others are doing the same. Can't blame them. The Neverending Story was one of those movies I decided to watch again, and given how long it has been since I've seen it, I might as well have gone into this one blind, and yeah, I love this movie. It was a breath of fresh air. Well, not without its shortcomings, of course. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, I knew beforehand this movie was based on the book, and since I liked the movie so much, I picked it up and read it. What I didn't know was that the film only covers the first half of the book, but in regards to Bastian, the main character, each one tells a different story. In the book, Bastian was a pudgy kid who doesn't think too highly of himself, and whose father is emotionally distant after the loss of his wife, you know, Bastian's mom. I won't get into the book too much, but when Bastian goes into the book after giving the childlike empress a new name, thus saving Fantastica from the nothing, he is having a blast, so much so that he imagines himself as being very good looking and with the Orin can make wishes. The problem is he decides to stay in Fantastica rather than go home. Oh, I do need to mention that in the book the land is called Fantastica, in the movie it's called Fantasia. Anyway, getting back on track, the more wishes he makes, he not only increasingly loses his memory, but causes damage to Fantastica as a result, due to his wishes and his actions being increasingly selfish. The second half of the book is about Bastian really learning to be himself and to love others, especially his father. Yes, I realize there's far more to the book than that. While I do cover a few things, this video isn't intended to be a deep dive into the book, nor is it to be a compare and contrast style video. So I do very much recommend you pick up the book and read it at your leisure. Or you can listen to a good audiobook version that's here on YouTube, link in the description below. In the movie, it is Bastian that is grieving the loss of his mother, and his father is the one that has moved on. His father notices that Bastian doesn't have much interest in things, aside from reading, that is.
I got a call from your math teacher yesterday. She says that you were drawing horses in your math book.
Unicorns. They were unicorns.
And I'm very disappointed that you didn't even try out for the swimming team. Now, Bastian, you're old enough to get your head down out of the clouds and start keeping both feet on the ground, right?
He goes to Mr. Coriander's place to get away from the bullies, takes the Neverending Story from Mr. Coriander, and goes to the school attic to read the book, where he is trapped there overnight. And of course, a lot from the first half of the book is in here. Fantasia is in danger of being swallowed by the Nothing. The childlike empress sends Atreyu, who is not a green skin like he is in the book. As I understand it, they tried green makeup on Noah Hathaway and it didn't work. Anyway, back on track. He goes on a quest to find a cure for the childlike empress's illness and save Fantasia from the Nothing, using the Orin to guide him. Unbeknownst to Atreyu, he is chased by the Gmork who serves the Nothing. He goes to the Swamps of Sadness, where the most traumatizing scene in children's film history occurs, the death of Artax, which is actually more traumatizing in the film than it was in the book in my opinion, as here, the horse doesn't speak. And no, none of the horses were killed in making this scene. They were trained to stand on the lift that was under the water and not move, and the trainers would switch them out at certain times to keep them from any real harm. Rewatching this recently, yes, this scene is sad and all, but the bit near the end with Rockbiter was what really got me.
They look like big, strong hands, don't they? I always thought that's what they were, my little friends. I couldn't hold on to them. The Nothing pulled them right out of my hands.
He meets Falkor, goes through the trials to get to the Southern Oracle to know what is needed. The Emperor's needing a new name.
But that's easy! I can give her any name she wants!
Only a human child can give her this new name.
One of the points of the book, and it's even present in the movie, is that if children stop reading, then the world of magic and fairy tales will disappear. It will be consumed by the Nothing.
Fantasia has no boundaries. It's the world of human fantasy. Every part, every creature of it is a piece of the dreams and hopes of mankind.
But why is Fantasia dying then?
Because people have begun to lose their hopes and forget their dreams.
What is the Nothing?
It's the emptiness that's left. It is like a despair, destroying this world.
In Bastian's case in the film, we see him dispassionate and sad, and not moving on. It's holding him back from getting anywhere. In a sense, the nothing was at least beginning to consume him. It isn't just him either, we see it happening to Morla. Not surprising given that she's been alone for so long.
Did you know that the Empress is very ill?
Not that it matters, but yes, we don't care.
There's a terrible nothing sweeping over the land.
We don't even care. Whether or not we care.
The Gamork only serves the nothing because what else is he going to do if all's going to end in nothing? Even poor Rockbiter was going to throw it all in. Look at what happens around us in real life when people stop giving a crap. Everything falls apart, becomes ugly, and worst of all, we start to forget we had good things if we grow apathetic. By the end, Bastian giving the childlike Empress a new name, which is Moonchild, which was his mother's name, was that her first name or her maiden name? Whatever the case may be, I think by doing that was the first step in helping him move on and start building a better future. Not just by first making wishes and rebuilding Fantasia using his imagination, but also in the real world just living day by day. That is, after he's done in Fantasia. There were other things left out, such as the encounter with the Grammel, a spider-like creature which is made of millions of other bugs, which is where Atreyu actually meets Falkor for the first time, or the encounter with Eulala, a voice in the wind in which Atreyu has to speak to it in rhyme. I can see why they filmed the first half of the book. It has the conflict which would make for a more exciting picture. But between the book and the film, which do I prefer? I can safely say the book is great and I do recommend it. It has much more story and ideas. I am being very biased here when I say I prefer the movie. It was the one I encountered first, and while imperfect, the way it was presented caught my attention more. In fact, speaking of the book, the author, Michael Enda, was initially thrilled about this being made into a film, but later had nothing but bile for it. Yes, in the film, there's a lot from the first half of the book, but overall, the adaptation is pretty loose. Which is fine by me. I usually see adaptations as separate versions from the book counterparts, regardless of fidelity. But what really made the author's blood boil was the ending where Bastian rides Falkor to torment his bullies. While funny in isolation, especially when everyone around them is screaming in terror as a luck dragon comes down from the sky, I understand Enda's issue with it.
The big problem started when Wolfgang wasn't sure how to end this movie.
I thought it was the coolest thing in a movie like that, where you are so much into Fantasia and you are for a long time just not in our real world anymore. It was just at the very beginning. And I thought it would be the greatest cut if all of a sudden he has never forgotten about how it all started, and we cut from that world right into do it the other way around now, right? Not that he is entering Fantasia world, but he is from Fantasia coming back with the luck dragon into our world. He was very upset. He didn't like it at all.
Michael Enda's philosophy was everything what we read and what we will see in a movie is born in the fantasy of the kid. And so this could not be possible to come into the real world with a Fantasian creature.
He tried to get the movie shut down via an injunction, but it was unsuccessful. In fact, the biggest problem I have with the film is the ending, and it really has nothing to do with Bastian riding Falkor to torment his bullies. It just ends too abruptly. Since I hadn't seen the film for so long, I didn't remember much of it. I was expecting a follow-up with Bastian's father, or even one with Mr. Coriander, as both of those happened in the book. In fact, in the book, when Bastian was reading the Neverending story and continuing his adventures in Fantastica itself, he was gone for a whole day. His father got worried sick and called the cops. But he does run home, and there is reconciliation between the two. Even having not read the book at the time I rewatched the movie, I was expecting something like that to happen, but no, it never came. I was expecting a scene where Bastian was going to tell his father that everything was going to be okay. And his father's advice to him at the beginning wasn't necessarily bad.
Now, Bastian, you're old enough to get your head down out of the clouds and start keeping both feet on the ground, right? Stop daydreaming. Start facing your problems.
But it was clear that Bastian just needed another route to get there. And if it takes getting involved in a good story, well, that's good. It just would have been nice to have an end scene where Bastian has a new determination to make the most of life. What we have here works overall, but I just wish there was more. The abrupt ending is something I can forgive, because the rest of the film is just so damn charming, tactile, traumatic, creative, and other wonderful adjectives that would work well with this film, but I'm just too damn lazy to think of. From the ivory tower to the swamps of sadness to when the nothing is literally ripping Fantasia apart, it's all put together with such finesse, the kind that can only have been done in the 80s, and I do mean that as a compliment. They just went all out and tried to actually present something you've never seen before, tried to present something otherworldly. Sadly, that seems to be something missing not only from fantasy shows and movies nowadays, but even in sci-fi. There's a lot of great visual effects work here, but my favorite ones are the scene with Morla, and when the ivory tower is getting ripped apart while Bastian is being indecisive.
Why don't you do what you dream, Bastian? But I can't. I have to keep my feet on the ground. Call my name. Bastian. Please. I'll do it. I'll save you. I will do what I dream.
The child actors are all quite good here. They had to carry it, especially given that there were no major adult stars in the film. The only one I recognized was Deep Roy, thanks Tim Burton. But I was happy to see Alan Oppenheimer, the voice of Skeletor from The Skeletor Show, voiced Falkor.
Things will work out fine, Atreyu. Never give up, and good luck will find you.
I can't remember when I've had a more pleasant day.
He was also in the US version of the first Gamera movie. Good stuff.
It would not be the first time Washington has kept the truth from the public, whether it be flying saucers or Gamera.
Oh, so now you believe in flying saucers, along with 200 feet turtles that survive atomic bomb explosions.
I've devoted my life to science.
Gentlemen, you'll get no apology from me, Contraire. I prefer to expose
You have no
publicly.
scholarships to back your arguments. Read Virgil's Laocoon. Read Paradise Lost.
The ravings of a lunatic.
Read, you ignorant ape.
There are two versions of the film, and since I watched the US version first, I prefer that one. I also think the US version served as the international cut overall. And then there's the German extended version. The only major difference between the German extended version and the US version is the use of music. The US version has Klaus Doldinger's score with inserts of new music by Giorgio Moroder, who also wrote the title song. Yeah, I know. Once you hear it, it never goes away. The German version only has Klaus Doldinger's score and doesn't have the opening with the clouds, but instead has a black background with white title cards. Already you're starting off with a very different feel, but let's change the music here. In fact, the German version does have a slightly different feel to it, and that is thanks to the music. But thankfully in the US version, Giorgio Moroder's work never felt intrusive and didn't work against what Doldinger wrote. The German version is about 7 minutes longer, but really, apart from some extended moments and a scene where a janitor is putting stuff in the attic with Bastian avoiding him, I hardly notice any substantial difference between the two, watching them back to back. Both are perfectly good versions, and if anyone prefers the German extended cut, I won't argue with you. Despite whatever shortcomings I or even others have, The Neverending Story, along with tons of other older films, completely blows most of today's offerings out of the water. A sobering reminder that the film industry as a whole doesn't know how to make movies like this anymore. Movies made with passion and a real drive to give the audience a look into something otherworldly, or even to help them consider a topic that never crossed their minds before, without being preachy or condescending. In my mind, this film safely joins alongside Conan the Barbarian and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen as the best fantasy films of the 80s. That's quite the trio. I hear rumors of plans to make a mini-series or something like it for The Neverending Story, and I think that's a losing battle. If the intention is to do the book more faithfully, which is unlikely given today, you would have to do the conflict with the Nothing all over again, and it just won't have the same power that the 1984 film delivered. Plus, come on, in today's entertainment environment, do you even want them to make another one? No. No, you don't. Leave it alone. We already got 2 bad sequels to the original. Those have been more or less forgotten, and that's probably for the best.